A poet is born of words and a desire to share. The poet writes a heart-wrenching poem to the object of their affection, who promptly takes out an AVO against them now that they have written proof that the poet is a creepy literary stalker. Rejection sends the poet into a depressive state that spawns endless odes of heartbreak, angst, and how lonely it is to be a creative individual. One day, while forlornly walking along the street, the poet sees a flower growing from a crack in the pavement, inspiring poetic manifestos against the government's artificial control of the individual. An environmental group reads these and encourages the poet to save the world by writing about the destruction of nature by capitalism. It is in the throes of waging a wordy war against the totalitarianism of the state and environmental degradation by capitalism that the poet realises the poetry is more than just patterns. It is a possible panacea for people's problems, a means of communicating ideas towards solutions. It is greater than love, encompasses all emotions. It transcends the individual obsession with self, is about all people. Poetry should be more than just making patterns. It should be making a positive change in the world. The cafe is buzzing with expectation of coming poetic celebration. The MC is chatting about world pollution, how poetry can provide a solution through a spiritual evolution, leading to societal revolution against current capitalist political ablution. A name from the hat provides a contender who recites a moving piece about a pretender whose devious actions contrive to upend her and send her on a year-long alcohol bender. The next poet is relaxed conversing about the dangers of vehicle reversing. The audience enjoys the humorous versing, which is some light relief interspersing tougher terrain following poets are traversing. My name drawn draws me to attention. Adrenaline rushes like a kid sent at detention. Inwardly worry about memories, word retention, where the topic exceeds bounds of PC prevention. Breathe deep before mic in athleticism. Think thoughts of creative aestheticism. I start out self-effacing with quick witticism to disguise the imminent fanaticism as I launch into poem of social criticism. I murder metaphors just to hear them scream, strangle similes and syllables in sensual dream. Shout loud adjectives to give ears a ream, then softly stroke with syntax, smooth as cream. My message is forward and straight as a beam. The reality we live in is not as it seems. I finish with alliteration to mentally disjoint, rhymes juxtaposed to make the point, hard words of medicine to cure and anoint, members of audience who are sick and deluded, for whom truth has somehow eluded, are now through power of poetry included. And a subversive cultural conspiracy against mainstream teachings of democracy that is actually dictatorial autocracy, when only those in power get richer, society controlled by capitalist scripture that holds the people in bonded stricture, preventing them seeing the big picture. I stand before Mike, my job as poet is done. Ideas into words, into ideas are now spun. Paragraphs of poetry presented to purveyors of poetic pun, whose minds are expanded. I shine like the sun, can be sent back into society like a loaded gun with thoughts of revolution designed to stun. Run, capitalist, run, run, run. Because as a poet, I do not need your millions of dollars. Just a few bucks to buy pens and paper to write the truth about the world. Letters of language lamenting lost lands. Written words wrestling with wrongs. Sentences spelling out subjugation and slavery. Paragraphs portraying poverty and pollution. Pages protesting perverted political power and propaganda. Essays exposing egos and exploitation. Captions and comments caricaturing capitalism. Enlightened elocution on environmental education. Adjectives and alliteration announcing answers to adversity. Acrostic arrangements advocating awareness, dictionaries of dialogue discussing disease and drug dependence, syntax and similes sabotaging sickness, satirical syllables silencing social stereotypes, sarcastic stanzas stopping sexual suppression, imaginative ink inciting insurrection against inequalities, verses of verbs and vocabulary vilifying violence, monologues of metaphors mocking mayhem and murder, ballads belittling bullying with bombs, narratives of nouns nullifying nuclear nonsense, tenets and truisms terminating tactical torture and terrorism, wisdom and witticisms wrecking war, pamphlets, posters and placards promoting perpetual peace. Quilled quips questioning quandaries, quarrels and quorums, lexicon and limericks lambasting laughable leaders, prose provocatively poking politicians, rhetoric ridiculing royalty and rulers, diction destroying dynasties and dictatorships, omnipotent oration of odes overthrowing oppression. Rhymes resulting in revolution against revolting, sonnets seeking salvation of sensibilities, free verse facilitating finding of freedoms, epistemological enunciation, eradicating evil. Power of people's poetry, promising proverbial paradise. I do not need your money. I just need you to listen to and act on my words.